I'm gonna walk you through the entire process of downloading and connecting Factory IO with OpenPLC. The first thing we need to do is download and install Factory IO, and that's super simple. You just need to go to their website, hitting this button to try for free for 30 days. The 30 days are gonna start once you run the program for the first time, and you can simply uninstall and install it again as many times as you wish. So we just need to fill our information, name, last name, tick this box, our email, and start trial. It will start downloading. Once it has downloaded completely, we just need to open the file and install it normally as we would any other program on Windows. You just need to click next, 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 install, and it's super simple. Then you should have a desktop icon and you just need to double click and open. So to install OpenPLC, we just need to go to the website and click on download OpenPLC IDE, which is the editor, and here we select Windows. And then for the runtime, we just need to go to their website here in autonomylogic.com, and we go to the Windows section and download the executable to install the runtime. Once we have both of them downloaded, we just need to install them. So again, we just need to open the executable, run it, just follow the instructions. Once you install it, you're just gonna see this main dashboard, and we can create a new project. Click on this button and then selecting PLC project, just giving this project a name. And then we need to create a new directory and an empty folder. We select the empty folder, and for language you can choose any language, but for the purpose of this video I'm just gonna use ladder. The cyclic time, we can leave it as the default. So this is the main interface of our project. Now for the runtime, you just need to do the same. We just open it, run it, install it, just follow the instructions. You can create a desktop shortcut for this one too. So this one's gonna be the actual PLC running on your PC or simulating a PLC, and the other one is the one you use to create your program and upload it to the PLC. Okay, so once you install it, you can launch it automatically. It's gonna start simulating the PLC. We can close it for now. So the first thing we need to do is going to Factory IO. We're gonna open a new scene. We're gonna use the first one that they have available for this tutorial. Then to be able to connect it to OpenPLC, we go to File, Drivers, and here we need to choose the, in case we have a physical PLC, we could choose it here, but for now we're gonna create a Modbus TCP/IP server, and we need to make sure that all our sensors are in our inputs. So you can do that by just dragging and dropping. By default, it should be linked successfully. So in this case, our sensor, it's on the input 1 of the PLC, and our output, which is the conveyor belt, is gonna be in our coil 0 or our first output. And again, you can just drag it and drop it. We should go to configuration. You should annotate this IP address, which is the IP address of your machine, because we're gonna need it for OpenPLC. So this is gonna start a server, and we need to connect to that server through OpenPLC to be able to make the two programs communicate with each other. So if you needed more inputs or more outputs, you could just change them here. So for instance, if I put 4 digital inputs and 6 digital outputs, then when I go back, you'll see all those inputs and outputs here in the PLC. For now, we're just gonna leave them as 2 digital inputs and 1 digital output. Okay, so that's everything we need to do in Factory IO. Now, when we go to OpenPLC, this is a bit more tricky, but the first thing we need to do is go to Remote Devices and create one. So we click on this plus, Remote Device. Here we can call it whatever we want. I'll just call it Modbus, which is the communication protocol we are using. Here you need to select Modbus, then click on Create. Here on the address, we're gonna write the address of our machine, which is this one. So in this case, 192.168.33.128. The port by default is the 502, so you should be good with that one. Just make sure it's the same port here in Factory IO and in OpenPLC. And then we need to again create the variables or the ports. In this case, we just have one sensor and one conveyor, or one output. So those are the ones that we're gonna create here. So on the plus button, an IO group. So if you have multiple inputs and multiple outputs, you can hold them in different groups. In this case, we just have one, but let's say we have multiple sensors, so we're gonna call these sensors, and then we're gonna select read discrete inputs. This is gonna be the length, how many sensors. So just for the sake of the video, let's say we have 3, but we're gonna use only 1. We click create, and then if you click here, these are the 3 sensors, or the 3 digital inputs that we can read within our code, and the addresses. This is gonna be very important very soon. Now we need to do the same for the outputs of the PLC. So let's call these conveyors, and then in the function code, instead of reading discrete inputs as we had before, we need to click on write single coil or multiple coils if you had multiple conveyors. So let's just, for the sake of this video, use multiple coils, and then we can set also the length, whatever length we want. So let's just create 6. Then when we open this, we're gonna see different addresses, and we're gonna have to link these addresses to the variables in our code. So that's it. You just click Ctrl S to save, and you'll notice the star here disappears. That means file saved. Now we need to create the variables that are gonna control the inputs and outputs of the PLC in factory IO. So let's create one variable, which is gonna be my sensor. Class, it's gonna be local. The base type, it's gonna be a boolean. It's just 0 and 1. And here in the location, here's where we need to put the address. So we can go here again to our sensors, just the first one. You can see it here. It's percentage ix 0.0. So we just put that here, percentage ix 0.0. Add custom value. For the conveyor variable, we're gonna do the same. So we hit on the plus button. We change the name to the conveyor. The type's gonna be also boolean. Then the location is gonna be different. So in this case, it's gonna be qx 0.0. Add custom value. All right, so now we need to create the logic of our program. So we create a new rung here. Here's where our logic will live. The first thing we need to do is place a coil here, which will be linked to the conveyor variable, and then a contact, which is gonna determine when this conveyor is gonna be activated. So in this case, every time we want it to be activated, every time the sensor it's giving us a 1. So the idea is that every time the sensor is on, which means the toad hasn't reached the end of the conveyor belt is gonna be on. So as long as the sensor keeps outputting 1, we want to have the conveyor belt on, and as soon as the sensor outputs a 0, meaning the laser ray was interrupted by the toad, we need to stop the conveyor. All right, so now we need to open our runtime. So we can just start open runtime here in our programs. The first time it opens is gonna take a while because it needs to create all the environment files and all the setup. All right, so now once it's connected, we need to connect with the runtime from the editor. So we click here in configuration. We change the device from the OpenPLC simulator to runtime v4, and then we can click here on search, and you should see it here. So we just click on it, click OK, then click connect. So since this is the first time that we are connecting to the runtime, we need to set a new username and a new password. So in this case, my name for both of them, and we're gonna create a user. Then the next time we connect to it, we just need to input this username and password. All right, now that we are connected, we'll save the configurations. Then I'm gonna build and upload. Now I can run it and start the debugger. We initialize the debugger just to see the actual values of the inputs and outputs. So here we can see that the code is actually working. The factory IO program is sending the sensor value, which is a 1. And here you can see that it's actually reading a 1 because it's green, and the conveyor belt is being activated. So now we can just put this in half of the screen, this one in the other half. And when we start the simulation, we can see that the conveyor belt is activated. You can see here the variable is activated. And then as soon as the sensor gets interrupted, this part here changes to a 0. So the connection is not working anymore and the conveyor belt is stopped. So we can replay it, and you can see again, this is working. And just to make sure the connection is actually working, we can turn off the PLC and the debugger. And now when we reset the simulation, it shouldn't work because now it's not reading any values or any code from the PLC because the PLC is not activated anymore. Alright, so this was a quick way on how to connect OpenPLC and Factory I/O. I did this video because all the videos that were online about how to do it were with very old versions of OpenPLC and they didn't work out of the box. So this is a quick way of how to do it. So in summary, what we did was basically communicate with the Modbus TCP/IP communication protocol. So we created a server in Factory I/O and a client in OpenPLC. We set the variables that they were gonna communicate with, and we create our program and run it through the runtime PLC simulation.